Viewers is advised.
1994 brought a lot of great things for gaming. Warcraft, Elder Scrolls, Amazon. I can't even imagine gaming without Amazon. They make me laugh so much, how could I? But it also brought us the first Street Fighter anime named Street Fighter. And what I mean by that is we're not going to talk about this. Partially because I can't find it with subtitles, partially because look at this! And partially because it was made by the same Korean studio that did the Eon Kid. Do you have any idea how statistically improbable it is for me to have a reason to mention the Eon Kid 2 videos in a row? I'm traumatized now because I never knew my anime list had a page for it until a week ago. So yeah, starting for real now.
I mean, it's alright, like...
First up, we got Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, and I swear to God if that 2 is there for the reason I think it is. I love this very first fight where the director was like, okay, it's a dark and stormy night. They're battling to the death. Wait a minute, there's no visible street. Make it so a flash of light reveals a street somewhere off to the side so no one can call us out. So yeah, that's Sagat there getting his ass beat by Ryu, and that's the thing about this movie. Typically, people like Sagat are telling Kanjin to not feel discouraged about his subscribers burning to cinders. But what's happening here is M. Bison is using mind control to turn their bodies into weapons for his evil plan. Then he finds out Ryu and Ken are the main characters of the movie, and he's like,
I'm gonna get that cake, Fred, and there's nothing you can do about it.
So they send out these cyborgs that have cameras in them to try and find Ryu again, which I want to point out is so much more effort than just making a drone or some shit. Now, the cameras need to be in the shape of chiseled as fuck dudes even though they can't fight. Also, the concept of surveillance and espionage mean nothing because the whole movie is just a bunch of fight scenes regardless. The story is effectively just the first paragraph explaining each character on their wikia adapted into a movie. Chun-Li's dad fell down an elevator shaft or some shit, and that equals Chun-Li kills her assassin via falling damage too. Seriously, if it wasn't for the animation and the ending, this would be like a 2 out of 10. But the ending instantly makes it a classic all on its own, and I kinda don't want to spoil it here. To a certain extent, it's worth the price of admission alone. Basically what happens is they Big Bang Kamehameha Bison and send him flying into his own helicopter thing. And then, for good measure, that explodes too. Then the movie ends in the most generic way possible and they start rolling the credits. Then Bison shows up again driving a truck and tries to run Ryu over. And then it actually ends. No explanation. Now, truly speaking, does this make up for how forgettable the movie is? No. But do I wish every anime ended this way? Yes. Capcom, I don't know what the fuck you were on, but this is how Devil May Cry should have ended at the very least. Adapt the third game into a movie, and just when you think Virgil's gone, he somehow comes back and tries to turn Dante into Roadkill. Fade to black, no season 2, 10 to 13 episodes, no recap in the middle, handed over to 2007 Madhouse. That would have genuinely been the best anime ever made. And obviously, I immediately turned on the next anime in a cold sweat trying to see what would happen next.
I mean, it's alright, like...
Okay, second on the list is Street Fighter 2.
Yomigaeru Fujiwara-Kyou Toki o Kaketa Fighter-tachi.
This is a 23-minute long OVA from 1995. There is no way to stream it, you just gotta find it on YouTube, and by the way, get used to that for the rest of this video. The description on my anime list is, and I'm not fucking with you right now, an educational anime featuring Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, and E. Honda. The four travel back in time to talk about historic things. That's it, that's the whole description. So allow me to tell you what actually fucking happens. There's this stone thing that scoops everybody up in a blue light, and yes, they do travel back in time, but it's Japanese time travel. So if you're expecting some Peabody and Sherman type shit, where you got a good variety going, you're gonna be disappointed here. And it's not that there's a problem with it being Japanese history, it's just, I'm so well versed in Japanese culture already. I've seen Samurai Champloo. I know what happened before modern day Japan. None of this information was new to me. It is kind of fucked up though because they were all transported back in time to different points. So Ryu was only in the past for a little bit, but Honda was a slave for 16 years. And the only reason he got to go back is because Chun-Li, Ken, and Ryu found him. He would have been stuck there until he died of old age Weeping Angel style if they didn't. That is existentially horrifying. This is supposed to be some silly little 20-minute adventure. Why'd they write that part in? They laugh at his ass too because he can't remember what they were even talking about before they got sent back in time. Yeah, it's real funny when it's not happening to you, huh? Y'all are terrible friends. You're lucky none of this is canon to the 1994 anime's timeline. Speaking of which...
Wow, that is delicious. Finally. That's a good fucking thing.
Alright, next up we got Street Fighter 2, the animated series, which actually means something. It's from the same studio that did the 94 movie, but it's a 29 episode long TV show from the year after. And obviously I was intrigued, because if this was a direct sequel, we might have finally figured out why Bison was driving that truck. Unfortunately though, even if this did have anything to do with the movie, it takes place in an alternate timeline before it, so it's starting at -1 million points. Because it doesn't go at the speed of light introducing every single character, so you're actually burnt out at the start for no reason if you watch the 94 movie first. Meanwhile, the further you go, you start to realize, oh shit, that movie was just one long-ass pilot. Because the story is literally just Ryu and Ken get their keisters dug in by Guile, which of course means they have to go on a globe-trotting adventure to face off against every Street Fighter to get stronger. It's like a tournament arc, but the tournament is a battle royale of 2 people versus everyone else on the planet, but it eventually devolves into another M. Bison mind-controlling people the animated series, complete with random henchmen who are just there to be stereotypical.
After all this, you still...
I still want that gas, yes. And you had better deliver.
Now, it's not that I'm complaining or anything, but at a certain point it gets fascinating how the main difference this time is Ken has to fight mind-controlled Ryu instead of Ryu fighting mind-controlled Ken. But yes, to be fair, I don't really know what I was expecting other than at least a little more to the story. It definitely has some twists and turns though, I'll give it that.
You're under arrest for transportation of heroin.
And that's just episode 8. Ryu and his big-ass Devilman eyebrows have a lot of maturing to do over the course of the show. Sure, him and Ken start out as a couple of 17-year-old 20th century anime protagonists that don't have any personality outside of wanting to fight, but by the end, they start to feel like actually believable people, who just so happen to be a couple of 17-year-old 20th century anime protagonists that don't have any personality outside of wanting to fight. Would I recommend this show, though? I think it depends on how low the bar is for you. Obviously, if you're interested in watching the movie, put this on instead. It's just the movie, but with way more shit. And when looking at it from that angle, my main criticism is they reuse animation too much, but it's such good animation you don't even care. And outside of the absence of the truck, Bison is way better in this show too. You get a lot more dialogue out of him on top of how he already acted in the movie. And by that I mean anytime he's on the screen, he's just aura farming like fuck. He also gets as close as he's allowed to sexually assaulting Chun-Li in this show, which is a huge 180 from how they interact in the Street Fighter cartoon.
You killed my... Yes, I killed your father. What is it with you women anyway? I killed my father too, and you don't hear me whining about it.
That was airing at the same time as this anime. It doesn't get more amazing than that. But what about this show just in a vacuum? Is it worth it then? To that I would say, the original Baki TV show was done by the exact same studio and is infinitely better. And if you don't even have to look further than that for a higher quality alternative battle series, hopefully that answers your question. It's not really worth going out of your way to watch unless you have multiple reasons to, and that's a shame because there's some pretty good fights in this show. But at that point, you can just look those up on YouTube. Next anime.
Get ready to lose some pounds. Get ready to get shot and thrown in a ditch.
Alright, now we got Street Fighter Zero, the animation, otherwise known as Street Fighter Alpha, the movie. This was the first and only Street Fighter anime done by Studio Plum. They are a corporation, if you will. And this movie is the first to feature Akuma, who is possibly even more devious than M. Bison himself.
Where are your prayer beads?
The weird thing is, though, Akuma actually showed up multiple times in the 95 anime with these random non-speaking cameos, and you're probably asking yourself if these were foreshadowing, and the answer is no, because the studio never made a season 2. So I'm gonna guess these are just there as a joke, which is fine actually because it's really funny. Like, imagine if they never made a second arc of Dragon Ball Z, but every once in a while Frieza is just in the back drinking a glass of milk or something. Anyways, the premise of this movie is everything reset again. Get used to that too, by the way. We got the version of Ken and Ryu that aren't off-model and already know how to use ki. Come to find out, Ken has a long-lost younger brother, and wouldn't you know it, it just so happens to be the same week that the Dark Hado is trying to take over Ryu's spirit. Meanwhile, all I care about is the cute tomboy character.
You turned into a giant gorilla and started smashing everything around you, even me.
I'm not gonna launch into that for y'all's sake, but be warned, the next video I make may or may not just be me talking about tomboys for like 26 hours. Also, this is the first Street Fighter anime to actually involve a tournament. All the other times, the fighters just kind of accidentally bumped into each other while they were doing other stuff, but now we actually get the premise of the games. It's weird though, because while they're on their way to the tournament, there's like a 10-minute section of the movie where both of the kids they shoehorned into it to make it more appealing keep getting attacked by grown-ass men. And in the case of the girl, yes, She's a tomboy, as previously stated. But what is the deal with almost every serious Street Fighter anime having to at least imply sexual assault?
That was fun. Let's play some more.
We'll have a good old time.
Cut it out! Wait!
So the tournament starts, it's awesome, then it ends after like a second, and the rest of the movie is Ryu trying to save his brother from a scientist or something. Nothing makes any sense. The whole movie was a bait and switch. The characters don't even know what the fuck is going on.
Fighting. Becoming strong. But what is fighting?
We have 5 anime left. So, again, I'm gonna not do what I would normally do here and crash the fuck out. Like, even Akuma can't survive the pointlessness of this movie, where he has 2 prime targets in the form of children to casually Masatsu. But no, instead he's like a Walmart version of the evil Samurai Jack for one entire scene. Meanwhile, the actual villain's master plan is to take control of the Dark Hado, because God forbid Akuma himself be the villain. Nah, let's just edge the audience for the one movie they get rationed to them every 4 to 6 years. Look at his fucking smug smile. A villain this poorly written doesn't deserve to look at me like that. Fuck you. Also, this movie is so badly paced, I genuinely had to double check the official runtime of it on IMDb because I thought the copy I had was missing scenes. And what is this? 5 stars from Gamers Republic? What? 5 out of what? 5 out of 100? Next anime. Please, dude.
I mean, it's alright, like...
Okay, now we got Street Fighter Alpha Generations, and it's not AKA anything. They finally decided on the name. This is a sequel to the last movie, and it was done by yet another completely different studio. It is a 42-minute long movie, and this time Akuma is actually the villain instead of literally being in the presence of the main characters for a total of 1 minute. Problem being, there is no longer a guarantee that the Street Fighter movie you're watching is going to be the most beautifully animated thing you've ever seen. And forgive me if I've never went on this rant, but energy attacks should never be a different style of animation. That being said, even if you're gonna do something as diabolical as that, if you make that shit CGI, it is an instant 0 out of 10 on the animation. I don't care how good you are at doing the hand-to-hand, CQC, fisticuffs, whatever the fuck you want to call it. If I see someone doing a Hado attack and it looks like this, you better have the best story ever put into a script by a human being to save you. And yes, granted, this is the first Street Fighter movie that you could argue has a story, not to mention an immensely entertaining English dub.
Shopping took a little longer than expected, didn't it?
Yeah.
So even if you look past the animation, the expressions, the character designs, these are the same characters a few years later, by the way, really let that sink in. At the end of the day, this is the big fight between Ryu and Akuma. This shit had been teased for 10 years, since all the way back when they had the motherfucker getting his luggage in the 95 anime. I appreciate what they did for the storytelling, but if I was gonna get close to calling this good, it needed better choreography. At least. Big underline beneath the phrase, at least. Next anime.
I mean, it's alright, like...
Next up, we got Street Fighter 4 Aftermath. And no, you're not mistaken, they just skipped Street Fighter 3. There's no anime named after it. Or maybe they called this Street Fighter 4 because it's just 4 animated shorts. And each one is just there to explain in a slightly different way why the franchise is never gonna end. The first episode is about how Shadow Law and M. Bison are always gonna be around. The second episode is about how Chun-Li is always gonna be around. The third episode is about how Akuma is always gonna be around. And the fourth episode is about how the tomboy is always gonna be around. So it's an obvious 10 out of 10. I really don't have anything else to say there. Next anime.
Get ready to get dipped in acid baths. But first, you're gonna get raped.
Okay, now we got Street Fighter 4, The Ties That Bind Us. This was an OVA that was a direct sequel to whatever the fuck Aftermath was, and it's the last time we're ever gonna even get close to an arguably feature-length anything on this list. Good news is this one isn't completely skippable. You got a good balance of old and new characters here. Ryu is obviously in some random desert or Asian province or whatever. Meanwhile, everyone else is being poorly animated as they investigate some strange occurrences around the globe.
They're on to us. We'd better move.
Where was she looking? What direction is she facing? They never show it. They never show anything in the sequence except her PNG sliding in from the right like that. Also, my favorite part of the plot is how everyone wants to find Ryu and then they use Ken to get to him. It's like those family friends that know nothing about you at all, so every time they see you, they ask like, hey, how are your parents doing? Because without that connection, you literally have nothing in common with them. And yeah, the reason they need Ryu is it's another situation where all the best martial artists in the world are being targeted. So you can go ahead and fill the center position on your bingo card just in case you were wondering. They're so nonchalant about it now too. Like they got this one scene and it's like that part from Ted where the kid says, yeah, but they got him. And he's like, what do you mean they got him?
I got a friend who's into that. He lives around here. He's the U.S. karate champ.
Actually, I do know him. Your friend is quite a fighter.
Sure is. Wasn't enough to help him. He went missing all of a sudden last year. Haven't heard from him since. Left behind a young wife. She moved on.
And I want to underline, again, that is not a complaint. I actually respect franchises that know what needs to be done to get the ball rolling and try not to waste your time reinventing the wheel unnecessarily. But presentation is everything. If, hypothetically, I was a diehard Street Fighter fan and I had to eat carrot puree for the rest of my life, the least you could do is spruce it up a little bit here and there. Add a little pepper, a little basil, some rosemary, some thyme. I feel like instead, most of these are slightly different versions of table salt. I think a good place to start would be the animation, because obviously not every studio is made equal. But goodness gracious, can Capcom pick the sorriest motherfuckers on the planet once you get to the 2000s. Ironically, the one thing that you can always count on being consistent when the fighting breaks out is, again, the sexual assault.
Cammy, wait!
Make your choice!
Cammy, how are you gonna let a Boruto character design lay you out like that? She got in a pussy punch and a boob grab. I know she didn't discombobulate you that damn hard, Cammy. I know that for a fact because you're fighting with your beret on for the first time since 1994, and the shit didn't even get knocked off your head. And all of this is so they can have the climactic battle against Seth. Once again, only Capcom. Only Capcom could come up with final bosses with names like Seth and Virgil. Capcom will seriously give you a villain named Jerry and provide him with the most simplistically perfect motivation. For no reason other than because they wanted to see if they could get away with it.
My apologies for the late introduction. I am Seth.
They really got one of the greatest voice actors of all time to say that with a straight face. Like, that just commands respect. And yeah, Ryu wins, roll credits, wash your hands, we're done. Whatever, man, it's cool. We basically only got one more to go.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Alright, time for Super Street Fighter 4, and as you can see by the runtime, there's not a whole lot that's super about this shit. It picks up somewhat where the last movie left off, where you got the Shadow Law, which is now called Shadow Lu, Proxy, which is called SIN, and they're working on the Feng Shui engine development project. And you can see in the first scene here, Seth has just finished his work on the new female character design for the franchise. And I mean, what's not to like?
Am I right, boys?
And yeah, needless to say, she's the scientifically enhanced terrorist. I want to track down the first anime to do this shit, by the way. I don't think it was this OVA, and I don't think it was One Piece when Kuma engulfed Thriller Bark in that explosion. But who started this thing where an entire structure or landmass can be engulfed in an energy blast or fire or whatever? And then they cut back after the wide shot, and it's like, everyone's fine, only the buildings took damage. You got this kid crying over their mom, and there's not a scratch on her after everything around her exploded. What portion of this was lethal to her specifically? She looks like she's just taking a nap for all intents and purposes. So her health points are at 1 max, right? How is the literal child still able to stand then? They're like trying to have their cake, eat it too, and then use a Star Trek holodeck to materialize a second cake. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Chun-Li heads in there and gets bodied for like the 30th anime in a row, and then the Omnitrix starts acting up, so the villain leaves. I want to call special attention to Guile's frame here also. This man's character design has been through the fucking grinder since the 90s. This OVA came out in 2010, and he is that off-model. 2010 is a blessing compared to how this motherfucker would look now. 16 years. 16 years ago, and he already looked like Mr. Frog. That is horrifying. For a split second, I thought they brought Honda back for the first time since that time travel shit. Again, this is the last real Street Fighter anime. Think for a second how despicable one would look if it came out now. Like if some random studio made a 6-episode series for Netflix or whatever. By the rate they were going when they finished this, the fighters would be looking like the Teletubbies compared to their actual models. If anything, though, they probably got the message, and that's why we haven't seen a new Street Fighter anime in so much time. Like, this anime is basically just 3 fights against the same overpowered antagonist, and everyone gets their cheeks clapped.
Why are people saying Chelsea's going to lose to Aston Villa? We're the future Real Madrid. Do you think Real Madrid would lose to Aston Villa?
Potter, is this a joke to you? Do you still think you're at Brighton? You've destroyed my mental health. Why would we sack Graham Potter? He had the potential to be the next Pep Guardiola.
You can call me crazy all you want, but tomorrow Chelsea will humble Liverpool. Not only will we humble Liverpool, but we will humble everybody that's been talking shit about us all.
Somebody take me to the mental institution, because I'm going to explode supporting this every week.
Why are people saying Chelsea's going to lose to Wolves? We're not in the Graham Potter era anymore. He's gone. We've got Super Frankie Lampard.
We need to forfeit the game against Real Madrid, because we're going to be embarrassed. We play like a relegation team. It's time to just rage quit the season. I haven't seen my team score a goal in weeks.
And it's especially sad because the villain winning for the first time ever is almost certainly because Ryu didn't show up, but who can blame him given the runtime? Like, I get all these anime are just advertisements for the games in one way or another, but you gotta try and hide it better than that. Luckily, we got one anime left, so as long as it's not just straight up a commercial, we should be moving in the right direction.
It's been a year, Daddy.
Street Fighter 6X Spy X Family Movie : Code : White. Just go ahead and take all the time you need to process that one. Is a 1 minute long commercial from 2023. It features Chun-Li and the family from Spy X Family minus 2 of them. And that's the only Street Fighter anime they've made in the last 16 years.
Final score 6-7.
So there's only like 1.5 of these that could be considered worth your time. And yeah, I can't feel sorrier for the fans. With the Devil May Cry video, it's 2 anime. That's bad enough as it is. But even if you're only taking the serious entries here, that's still 6 Street Fighter anime from 1994 to 2010. You're telling me, across 5 different studios, one of which is fucking Gonzo, by the way, there's not a single home run in there. Not a one. That is impressive. We gotta do something about that. I think a proper reboot, one with a season dedicated to Bison and his truck, and then a season dedicated to Akuma and maybe even Seth. Don't overload it with too many characters, but still as many as will make sense, like with the 95 anime. And don't make it a Saturday morning cartoon. At its core, the franchise is just a bunch of cool-looking people needing an excuse to punch each other, yes, but tie it together in a way that makes sense and give it time to breathe. You shouldn't need me to tell you this. Now, are they realistically gonna do anything I just said? No. If I was a betting man, I'd put my money on a CGI series by Studio Orange or some shit, and it'll be an ONA that's way too short to have any meaning to it. I would love to be proven wrong, though. Again, I don't think I wasted my time watching these because I got to make a video out of it, but for the average person, unless you want to see your waifu in action, good luck finding something to latch onto here.
I want to fuck the Chinese lady and elope with her in Las Vegas, but I can't because her fucking husband is cramping my style. I would fuck the ethnicity out of that Chinese lady, or I'd probably do it so hard she'd turn into a white lady. I fuck with Chinese people. Everybody tag a Chinese person in the comments. I really want to fuck that Chinese lady on the counter, but I can't because she has a husband. I'd let the Chinese lady molest me if I was not. I want to fuck the Chinese lady and give her a baby she doesn't have to throw away, right? I fucked the black chick once. She told me my stroke game was horrendous.